If your boss ever said, "Stay a few minutes after close, just you and me," this story is the reason you should think twice. My name is Lily Grant, and when this happened, I was 20, working as a hostess at a mid-range family restaurant just off the interstate in Charlotte, North Carolina. This was the type of restaurant characterized by faux wood booths, boisterous children's menus, and upbeat birthday songs that left the servers feeling depressed. I positioned myself at the front podium, offering a smile to unfamiliar faces while feigning indifference to the discomfort in my feet. That was my life: seat people, wipe menus, and dodge angry customers who swore they called ahead. Our general manager, Evan, was the cool boss. That's what everyone called him. "Relax, Lil. Good job, superstar. Proud of you, kiddo." He joked with guests, flirted with servers, and always had some story about his wild younger days. Corporate loved his numbers. Staff tolerated his personality. Thanksgiving week was insane. There were a lot of people traveling, some who didn't want to cook, and others who were already stressed out due to family drama. The restaurant felt like a circus. That Wednesday, I'd been on my feet for a double shift. My head was buzzing, my back was killing me, and my smile felt glued on. By the time we finally flipped the open sign to closed, I was running on fumes. "Lily, you crushed it tonight," Evan said, leaning on the host stand. His grin looked a little too wide. "Are you staying after for a bit?" I laughed nervously. "I mean, if you need help." Compliments from him always felt like a test I didn't understand. When side work wrapped up, he told everyone else they could clock out. "Go home, guys. Lily, do you mind helping me in the office for a second? Good chance for you to learn the real side of the business. Might help you move up someday." Sounded like an opportunity. I would rather not look rude or paranoid, so I said yes. The dining room emptied quickly. Music turned off. Dishwashers shut down. The atmosphere shifted from loud chaos to the heavy silence that restaurants experience after closing. I followed Evan down the back hallway, past the walk-in fridge and the chemical closet. The office door was half open. He went in first. I stepped through and heard a tiny, sharp click behind me. The latch. I glanced back. The door was closed. No window, no one else in sight. The office was small and cluttered. A desk covered in receipts, 2 monitors with grainy camera feeds, and the safe bolted into the floor. There was barely space for both of us to stand. "This is where the magic happens," he joked, dropping into the chair and pulling out stacks of paper. He started explaining credit card slips and cash drops, talking fast. Every time he reached across the desk, his arm brushed mine. I kept shifting away, trying not to make it obvious. After a minute, something in my gut started to twist. I casually reached behind me for the door handle. It didn't move. I tried again, quietly. Nothing. Completely solid. "Oh yeah," Evan said without even looking up. "Door sticks sometime. Don't worry, it's nice not having people barging in. Peaceful when it's just us." The way he said "just us" made my throat close. He stood up from the chair and moved closer, putting himself between me and the door. Suddenly, the office felt half the size. "You know," he said, voice lower now, "I always notice the ones who go above and beyond, management material. The girls who don't complain about staying late, the ones who trust me." He leaned against the desk, too close. His body blocked the only exit. His eyes weren't friendly anymore. They were calculating. My heartbeat pounded so loud I could barely hear him. I forced a weak laugh. "I should probably finish wiping menus in the front." He shook his head slowly. "Relax, Lily. We've got time. Tell me, how bad do you want to move up here?" He took one step closer, then someone hammered on the door. 3 forceful knocks caused the door frame to tremble. "Hey Evan, you in there?" It was Marcus, one of the cooks. His voice came sharp and annoyed. Evan's smile froze. Just for a second, his face dropped, and I saw what was underneath all that cool boss charm. I heard the key jingling in his pocket before he even moved. "Yeah, 1 sec," he called out, sounding frustrated. He pulled the key out slowly, like he had to force himself, and unlocked the door. Marcus stood right there, staring first at the key in Evan's hand, then at me, then back at him. "Sorry," Marcus said, but his eyes didn't match the word. "I thought Lily was supposed to help me roll silverware. Are you done with her?" He didn't wait for an answer. He just stepped back so I could walk out. I went. My legs felt numb. We walked toward the dish area, but there was nothing waiting that actually needed my help. Marcus grabbed his backpack from under a counter and pretended to dig through it. You okay? He muttered, keeping his head down. Yeah, why did you come back? I saw him lock the office door behind you, Marcus said quietly. He never locks it when the guys are in there. We didn't say anything else. We didn't have to. I finished the closing work in a fog. I went home, showered twice, and still felt dirty. For days afterward, I kept telling myself nothing really happened. He didn't touch me. I wasn't hurt. Maybe I was being dramatic. But that image, his hand pressing the key deeper into his pocket while I rattled the handle, wouldn't leave my head. A week later, I called the HR number on the break room poster. My voice shook as I told them everything. They used all the usual phrases. We take this very seriously. We appreciate you coming forward. They interviewed me. They talked to Marcus. They pulled camera footage of the hallway. 2 weeks later, the general manager from another location came in. Just so you all know, he said casually, Evan S. been transferred to our Greenville store. New opportunities. You'll get a new manager soon. Transferred, not fired, not exposed. Nobody ever told me what he said in his side of the story or if the next restaurant even knew. I handed in my 2-week notice the next day. No shout, no scene, just quietly left. Now years later, whenever a supervisor says, "Can you stay a few minutes after close?" every muscle in my body tightens. I remember that cramped room, the locked door, and the way Evan stood between me and freedom like he'd practiced it before. If your favorite break spot is by the back door of a restaurant, this story might ruin it for you forever. My name's Darren, and I cook on the line at a busy bar and grill in Phoenix, Arizona. We do wings, burgers, and enough fries to fill a swimming pool. My usual survival kit is a flat-top grill, cheap coffee, and 5-minute smoke breaks. Out back, there's a narrow concrete strip between our building and the one next door. One dented dumpster, one buzzing yellow light, and the metal back door that always slams too loud. That alley was my only quiet place. Until I found out I was never actually alone. It started on a Tuesday, a slow night. I threw my apron on a hook, grabbed my cigarettes, and shoved the back door open with my shoulder. Normally, it swings wide and crashes into the stopper. This time it moved halfway, hit something soft, and eased back like someone was holding it. I frowned and turned around. No one there. Just the kitchen behind me and the alley in front. I stepped outside anyway, figuring maybe the stopper was off. Lit my cigarette, leaned against the brick. I attempted to drown out the sounds of the kitchen. Behind me the door shifted. There was no loud bang or slam. There was no sudden gust of wind, just a soft tink sound, metal nudging metal. The sound resembled the gentle tapping of someone's foot. I turned around fast. The door was slightly open. Just enough to see a slice of light from the prep area. Nobody in sight. Whatever, I muttered and went back in. 2 nights later, the situation remained the same. I stepped out. The door didn't close right, kept nudging in small movements whenever my back was turned, always just off my line of sight. Miguel, I said to our dishwasher, this door's haunted, man. He didn't even look up. The door's old, he said, like you. Funny, however, it didn't sound like the creaking of old hinges. By the end of the week, I was paying attention. One night, I decided to catch whoever was messing around. I went outside like usual, lit up, leaned back, and waited. I pretended to look at my phone, angles adjusted just enough so I could see the door in the corner of my vision. Tink, I spun around, faster than before, nothing. All I saw was a slightly open door. Empty prep tables are visible inside. My skin crawled. I told my manager, Kim, that someone might be messing with the back door. Sheesh. If you've got enough time to stare at doors, maybe we need to cut your brakes, Darren. End of conversation. The next weird thing wasn't a sound. It was a shadow. Friday night, I stepped out again. The alley smelled like old oil and wet cardboard. I took one drag. Then just for a moment, I saw it. A silhouette loomed in the doorway. A person. The person was neither fully inside nor fully out, just standing there, blocking part of the kitchen light. I jerked my head around. Nobody. The door remained partially open. Kitchen empty. My heartbeat didn't slow for the rest of the shift. A few days later, someone tagged the dumpster with spray paint. Corporate freaked out more about the graffiti than about any of my complaints. Kim pulled security footage in the office to see who did it, and I was there when she clicked through. We watched a drunk guy stumble over at 3 a.m. and scribble nonsense on the metal. "Got him," she muttered. "I'm sending this to the landlord." Then she rewound to earlier in the night without thinking. And suddenly I was on the screen. There I was, stepping outside for a smoke. Same hoodie, same tired slouch. The door started to close behind me, then stopped. A man stepped into the doorway. He wasn't coming from the alley. He was already inside the building, hood up, head down, face just out of frame. He stood in that thin slice of light, staring at me or at my back. On the screen, I leaned against the wall, scrolling my phone, totally unaware. The person didn't move, didn't talk, just stood there watching. Then in the video, I shifted like I was about to turn around. At that exact moment, the man took one slow step backward and gently pulled the door so it almost closed, just enough to vanish behind it. My recorded self turned around a second later, saw nothing, and went back to smoking. Kim frowned. "Who is that? Is that one of your friends?" I couldn't answer. She rewound. "Different night, same angle, same thing." I'm stepping outside. He's already in the doorway, watching. I stepped back the instant my body turned even slightly toward him. "Is that the same guy?" she asked, leaning closer. It was. Same build, same hoodie, same stillness. We called the police. The officer who showed up was polite but worn out. "Resolution's bad," he said. "No face, no distinguishing details, no car." It was probably someone who entered the building while a door was propped open. "We'll add extra patrols, but there's not much else we can do without more." Corporate's response was fast and cold. "New rule, the back door must stay locked during business hours. All breaks are taken at the front. No exceptions." And Ted to complain. That alley had been my only quiet place. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw that grainy footage. My back turned, my shoulders relaxed. A stranger in the doorway, close enough to run at me in 2 steps, close enough to grab me, choosing not to yet. Now I work at a different restaurant in a different city with a different staff, but I never stand with my back to a door anymore. If I go outside, I ensure that I can see every entrance. If a door doesn't close all the way, I fix it myself. And when I feel like I'm alone near a back hallway, I always look twice. Because the scariest part wasn't that someone was watching me. It was that he'd probably been inside with us more than once. And the only reason I never saw him, it was because he didn't want me to. If you've ever worked late in a restaurant and heard footsteps above you when there's no upstairs, you might not want to read this alone. I'm Naomi, and I used to manage a busy bistro in Portland, Oregon. It was in one of those charming historic buildings landlords brag about, which mostly meant nothing was level and everything creaked. The bistro boasted high ceilings, exposed beams, art on the walls, and craft cocktails, making it an ideal venue for anniversaries and proposals. I knew the closing routine by heart. Last table out, side work, cash count, lock the front, set the alarm, and go home. The building made noise, sure. The usual noises included old pipes, wind in the walls, and other familiar sounds. Until the footsteps started. One Tuesday night near closing, I was checking the prep list in the kitchen. The line was clean, the flat top already scraped, and most of the crew gone. That's when I heard it. Slow, steady steps directly above the cook line. Not the random pops of old wood, not the rumble of pipes, footsteps. "Ty," I called to one of the remaining cooks. "You hear that?" He paused, listened for half a second, then shrugged. "Old place, probably ghosts or rats with boots." I smirked, but the sound stuck with me. The next night, same time, same place, footsteps again, same rhythm, then a soft scratch like a shoe sliding across dusty wood. A little sprinkle of gray dust fell from a hairline crack in one of the ceiling panels. That made my skin prickle. Our building didn't have a second floor over the kitchen. No storage, no office, just a shallow crawl space for wiring and insulation. I grabbed the nearest step stool and pressed my palm against the panel solid. No obvious hatch, no handle. There was just old paint and a faint crack along one side, suggesting that someone had previously pried it. I told myself it was nothing. Long day, overactive imagination. Then I checked our alarm logs the next morning. 3 nights in a row, there were motion alerts in the kitchen between 3 and 5 a.m. No overnight cleaning scheduled. No approved deliveries. Nobody should have been inside. That cold pressure built in my chest. Is one strange night enough? Fine. 3. No way. I told the building owner, Mr. Carlson, about the footsteps and the alarm pings. He waved me off. These systems glitch all the time, he said. It's likely a mouse nest or something else in the ceiling. Relax, you're safe. Do mice walk in size 10 shoes? I asked. He didn't laugh. A few days later, he sent his maintenance guy Rick to check it out. One guy, one ladder. There was also a roll of tape. We picked a slow afternoon when the kitchen was quiet. I pointed to the panel where dust had fallen before. Up close, the edges looked wrong. The paint wasn't cracked randomly. It was cracked in a rectangle, like someone had cut along the lines and put it back. Yeah, Rick said, this has been moved. He wedged a flat bar into the seam. The panel resisted, then popped free with a grunt and a small rain of insulation. Warm, stale air spilled down on us. He lifted the panel away, and we both aimed our flashlights into the dark gap above. There shouldn't have been room for anything, but there was a crawl space maybe 3 feet high, running the length of the kitchen like a secret tunnel. Inside, we saw a pile of blankets pressed into the shape of a body, empty food containers and candy wrappers. 2 men's shirts in a crumpled heap, an outline in the dust where a bag used to be. And worst of all, a metal vent at the far end bent outward, pointing directly down at the kitchen. From that hole, whoever had been staying up there could see almost everything. The prep tables, the walk-in door, the line. I was standing in the spot where I had counted cash after closing. My stomach dropped. I imagined all the times I stood alone below that vent, thinking I was the only person in the building. Rick's voice sounded far away. We should probably call the cops, he said. 2 patrol officers came first, then a detective. They used stronger flashlights, took pictures, and bagged a few small items. No ID, no wallet, no phone. Whatever really mattered, money, documents, a bag was gone. Could be a drifter, the detective said. Could be someone who worked here. It could be someone who found a way in and liked the free roof. Could they have been up there while we were open? I asked. He looked at the bent vent and didn't answer. Locks got changed that week. The panel was screwed back in with metal brackets and an alarm sensor. We provided the staff with only the most basic information. Someone was sleeping in the ceiling, but they're gone now. For a while, people made nervous jokes. Our ceiling roommate, dude upstairs, probably knew all our gossip. Did we at least charge him rent? But the mood changed during closure. Nobody wanted to be alone in the kitchen anymore. The cooks walked to their cars in pairs. Even the bartenders glanced up at the ceiling when they thought no one was looking. One night, long after the dining room was dark, I stood alone under that patched panel. The exit sign threw a red glow across the floor. The fans were off. The whole building hummed quietly. I stared up at the place where we'd found the blankets. The vent, the dust smears. I pictured someone lying flat in the narrow crawl space, listening, watching. We are in the process of understanding our own patterns. Who stayed late? Who arrived early? Someone walked out the back door alone. We never found out who it was. No one on staff disappeared. No one suddenly quit with all their things left behind. The police never called with an update. Eventually, I left that restaurant for another job in a shiny modern place. A new building, new systems, and cameras everywhere. Didn't matter now. Every time I close a kitchen, I inspect the ceiling first. Any panel that looks cleaner than the ones next to it. Any vent that has a slightly bent edge is a red flag. Any line of dust that doesn't match should be avoided. Because once you've found a stranger's bed above your head, the blanket is still shaped like a body. You stop believing you're ever truly alone in a locked restaurant. Walk-in freezers are the scariest room in any restaurant. They just are. If you don't believe me, it's because you've never been locked in one. My name is Caleb, and the incident happened at a small family restaurant in Omaha, Nebraska. We weren't fancy. The restaurant served burgers, chicken, and daily specials. I served as the dishwasher, however, everyone referred to me as the runner because I was typically responsible for handling heavy lifting or cleaning unpleasant messes. Thanksgiving week was brutal, big families, giant orders, side dishes stacked everywhere. The kitchen looked like a war zone, steam, shouting, and timers screaming from every corner. By the night before Thanksgiving, the crew was completely exhausted. Many of them left as soon as the last table paid, showing no patience for small talk. Our manager, Logan, was one of those guys who always looked busy without ever actually doing much. He loved to say, "I'm right here if you need anything," before disappearing into the office and shutting the door. That night he wandered through the dish area while I was up to my elbows in soap. "Are you almost finished back here, man?" he asked. "Just got trash and one more freezer run," I said. "Cool, grab an extra case of fries from the walk-in before you go." We burned through more than I expected. He checked his phone. "I'll be in the office wrapping up paperwork." Then he was gone. By midnight, the restaurant was dead quiet, just the hum of the cooler and the drip of the soda machine. I hauled the trash outside, stacked the last pans, and pushed the squeaky cart toward the walk-in freezer at the back. The latch on that door was old. Everyone joked about it. "Get stuck in there, Caleb." Not adding Caleb-flavored popsicle to the menu. We all laughed. It never sounded strange again after that night. I yanked the heavy door open, stepped into the blast of cold, and walked all the way to the back for the fries. The air burned my nose. Frost clung to the metal racks. I grabbed a case, turned around, and the door swung shut on its own thunk. The latch clicked. The sound hit harder than the cold. I set the box down and reached for the inside handle. Pulled nothing. I pulled again, applying more force. It didn't move. It felt loose inside, like something had snapped. "Logan," I called, trying to keep my voice calm. The door stuck. No answer. I hit the metal with my fist. "Hey, anyone still out there?" The freezer swallowed my voice. It bounced off the shelves and died in the humming air. My phone was in my locker. I'd left it there so it wouldn't get soaked near the sinks. Suddenly, that decision felt like the dumbest thing I'd ever done. I started banging. "Logan," nothing. I listened for any sound through the door, footsteps, voices, anything. Silence. I told myself it was fine. He had to still be here. His car was in the lot. He wouldn't just leave. I started pacing. Row to row, 10 steps one way, 10 steps back, saying numbers out loud just so I could hear my voice. The cold wrapped around my hands and ankles first. They burned, then went numb. Every few minutes, I went back to the door and hit it again. "Hey, I'm in here." Nothing. Time got weird. Minutes felt like hours. My breath turned into thick fog. My fingertips stung when I touched the metal shelves. I tried to think logically. Maybe Logan went to the bathroom. Maybe he stepped outside. Maybe he had music on in the office and couldn't hear me. Maybe another thought slid in behind those. Maybe he knew exactly where I was. At some point, my voice went rough and thin. My head felt heavy. My legs would rather not move. I leaned my forehead against the door and whispered, "Somebody, please." At first, there was nothing. Then bang, bang, bang. The sound came from the other side. Step away from the door. A man shouted. "We've got you." I stumbled back as the latch jerked from the outside. The door swung open and warm air rushed in like a wave. 2 police officers stood there. One of them pulled off his jacket and draped it over my shoulders. "Sit," he ordered, pointing at an upside-down milk crate. "You need to warm up slowly, not all at once." My legs did what he said automatically. They checked my fingers and my face, asked my name, and asked if I felt sick or dizzy. My teeth chattered too hard for a full sentence. Eventually, I managed. "How did you know I was in there?" "One of our patrols was driving by," the officer said. "Your building looked closed, no lights in the dining room, but there was a weird glow from the back. He thought it looked off, so he parked to check. Front doors were locked. No one answered. When he walked around, he heard faint banging from back here." He pointed at the freezer door. "Good thing you kept hitting it," he added. "You might not have lasted much longer." I looked past him into the kitchen. Logan was nowhere to be found. His office light was off. His chair was pushed in. Coffee cup gone. The hook where he hung his jacket was empty, our owner. R arrived a few minutes later, hair messy, tie half on. He started talking fast. Caleb, oh my God, we've been meaning to fix that latch. Terrible timing. I'm sure Logan just forgot you were still here. Miscommunication. I'll take care of everything. The officers asked a few pointed questions, but eventually there wasn't a crime they could clearly write down. Just malfunctioning equipment and possible negligence. The owner gave me some cash and told me to take a few days off. We'll handle the situation internally, he said. 2 days later, we got an email. Please wish Logan well as he moves on to another opportunity. We thank him for his service. That was it. No apology, no explanation. Nothing about almost freezing one of his staff. I went back long enough to clear my locker and hand over my apron. Nobody met my eyes. It was like they'd all agreed not to talk about it. I never filed a formal complaint. Part of me still wondered if I was overreacting. The bigger part replayed one question over and over. Why did Logan ask me to get fries after everyone else had left? And why was it a random patrol car, not my manager, that opened that door? Now in any kitchen, I keep my phone in my pocket, even if it gets soaked. I test every freezer latch 3 times before I step in. I announce my presence out loud when I enter a walk-in freezer and ensure that someone responds. People laugh at freezer horror scenes in movies. I don't. Because when you've stood in a metal box screaming until your voice cracks with no one answering, you understand how easy it is for a normal shift to turn into your last one. If you work delivery and ever get sent to a half-empty building late at night, remember this story before you step out of your car. I'm Troy, and I used to deliver pizza in Cincinnati, Ohio. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid better than most things I'd done. People rarely yell at the guy carrying the food. It was a cold, wet Friday night, thin rain, the kind that doesn't look like much but soaks into your hoodie anyway. We just survived the dinner rush when the printer chirped again. Large meat lovers, garlic knots, 2 sodas, my manager Lee Reed. She stuck the ticket to a box. Cash order, apartment complex on Riverbend Drive. Good tip if they're honest. She handed me the hot bag. You're up, Troy. I glanced at the address. Didn't recognize it, but that wasn't unusual. The city was full of ugly apartment clusters. The complex sat back from the main road behind a line of bare trees. 3 stories, peeling beige siding, a few weak lights in the stairwells. Most of the windows were dark. As I pulled into the lot, I noticed someone standing just inside the glass front door, a person in a dark hoodie. Head down, hands deep in their pockets. They didn't wave, didn't pull out a wallet, just stood there, probably the customer, I told myself. I parked, grabbed the bag, and walked up. Before I could reach for the handle, the figure opened the door a crack. 3F, they said in a flat, low voice. No hello, no smile, just the apartment number. Then they turned and started up the stairs without waiting for me. I followed at a distance, pretending this was normal. Some people treated delivery drivers like vending machines. Put in money, get food, no extra interaction. The 3rd-floor hallway smelled like old carpet and boiled vegetables. Only one overhead bulb worked, flickering above a door halfway down. The hooded person stopped a few feet away from that door and leaned against the opposite wall. Still no wallet, still no attempt to knock. I stepped up to 3F and knocked twice. Pizza, nothing. I knocked again, louder. Order for 3F. Behind me, the figure didn't move, didn't speak. I reached for the knob to knock a 3rd time and it turned under my hand. The door swung inward on a dark, empty room. No lights, no TV glow, no furniture outlines, just a square of hollow blackness. Hello, I called out, staying in the doorway. My voice echoed slightly like the room was bare. No answer. I leaned just far enough to peek inside. Bare carpet, blank walls, no boxes, no shoes by the door, no sound. It felt like an empty room. My neck prickled. Behind me I could feel the hooded figure watching. Yes, no, I muttered. I backed out into the flickering light. If you want your order, you can come stand in the hallway. I'm not walking into a dark apartment. The figure didn't argue, didn't complain, didn't say anything at all. They just stared. I'll mark it as no answer, I said, trying to sound casual. If there's a mistake, you can call the store. I gave the open doorway one more glance, still dark, still empty. I turned toward the stairs, my heartbeat tapping in my ears. Halfway down the second flight, I heard soft footsteps above me. Just a few steps, then silence. I didn't look back. Outside, the drizzle felt refreshing. I breathed deeper than I had in the hallway. I headed toward my car, digging for my keys, then stopped dead. The hooded figure was standing next to my driver's side door. No stairwell noise, no door creak. One second they were upstairs, the next they were by my car, like the space between had been cut out. They stood with their hands still in their pockets, hoods shadowing most of their faces. No movement, no expression. "You good?" I asked, keeping distance and gripping the pizza bag a little tighter. No answer. Up close, I could see a sharp jawline. No anger, no smile, just emptiness. I had two choices: walk right up to them to unlock my door or try something else. So I went with something else. I pulled my phone out, made a show of tapping the screen, and pressed it to my ear. "Hey," I said loudly into the silence. "Yeah, I'm at Riverbend now. You seeing me on the tracker?" I glanced up towards the building like I knew a camera was pointed at us. "Yeah, I'm standing by my car with the customer," I continued. "Should be clear on the security footage, right?" The hooded figure's head twitched just a little, a tiny reaction, enough to tell me they were listening. "I'll bring the order back," I said. The door was open, the apartment's empty. "You can check the hallway cameras later if they complain." We stared at each other for 3 long seconds. Then the figure turned and walked away, not toward the building but along the side, disappearing into the shadowed space between structures. No rush, no panic, just a slow, quiet exit. The moment they were out of sight, I unlocked my car, jumped in, and hit the locks. My hands shook as I backed out of the lot. "What happened?" Lee asked when I dropped the bag on the counter. "Empty apartment," I said. "Door unlock." "Ked, someone was waiting for me the whole time, but they never tried to pick up the food." She raised an eyebrow. "You calling it in?" On my break, I dialed the number from the complex's listing. "Hi," I said. "I delivered to 3F tonight," and the woman cut me off. "Sorry, did you say 3F? "Yeah, that unit's vacant," she said. "Has been for months. No showing scheduled tonight." "Are you sure you have the right number?" My hand tightened around the phone. "Must be a typo on our end," I lied. "Sorry for the confusion." I hung up and just sat there in my car, listening to the rain on the windshield, thinking about the voice that had said 3F in that hallway, the way they watched me knock, the completely empty room, the fact that they somehow reached my car without me hearing them pass. Now when I deliver, I'm picky. No big cash orders to half-dark buildings if the vibes feel wrong. No vague instructions like, "Come inside, the door's open." No stepping over a threshold into a dark room for a stranger. If someone's already waiting in the shadows when I pull up, I keep the doors locked and my engine running. I call from the car. I watch how they move, because I figured something out that night. Sometimes the person waiting at the entrance isn't hoping for hot food. They're hoping you'll walk into a place where no one else can see what happens next. If you've ever worked a late-night closing shift and felt like someone else was still in the building, this story is exactly why. My name is Rachel, and 3 years ago I worked as the night cleaner at a mid-scale restaurant in Savannah, Georgia. A place called Harbor Street Grill, nothing fancy. Brick walls, old nautical decorations, staff that rotated every month, and an owner who only cared if the floors looked shiny for morning customers. I worked alone most nights. Managers left around midnight. Servers cashed out and ran home. Cooks disappeared as soon as the dish pit shut down, and then it was just me, my mop, my playlist, and a giant empty restaurant that creaked like it still remembered the Civil War. I didn't mind it. No customer, no boss breathing down my neck, just me and my routine, until the night I realized someone else had a routine too. The first signet started subtle. Every night at 1:30 a.m., I swept the hallway between the kitchen and the walk-in fridge. It was narrow, and the motion lights took a second to come on. One night the light didn't turn on immediately. I stepped forward, waved my hand, still nothing. Then click, the opposite end of the hallway lit up instead, as if someone had walked through the sensor down there a second before, but no one was there. I chalked it up to sensor issues and kept working. The next night it happened again. Same hallway, same delayed light, same feeling that someone had just slipped around the corner before I arrived. The second SIGNA few nights later, I noticed something even stranger. We kept the patio chairs stacked after close. I always counted them, 40 chairs, because the owner was obsessive. But that night there were 40 when one chair at the end wasn't stacked, just facing the window, like someone had been sitting there looking inside. I pushed it back into the pile, telling myself I miscounted. But when I checked the camera feeds on the office monitor, that specific angle was blacked out. Broken, disconnected, covered, I didn't want to know. The third sign, the back hallway that led to the dumpster, had this awful rusty door that always squealed. You couldn't sneak through it even if you tried. At 2:10 a.m. while I was bleaching the prep table, I heard that rusty hinge cry out, click. I froze. My mop water sloshed quietly as the building settled. I waited, listened, held my breath, then, thump thump, slow footsteps heading from the hallway into the dining area. I grabbed the closest thing, a metal pitcher, and crept toward the sound. "Hello?" I called out, hating how shaky my voice sounded. No answer, just the faint echo of movement. I turned the corner, empty restaurant, chairs stacked, tables are clean, front door locked, but the hallway behind me felt warm. Like someone had passed through seconds before. I almost left early right then, almost. The night everything snapped, the worst night, was the Friday before Christmas. We had hosted a giant corporate dinner party, so the place was trashed. Confetti everywhere, glass smudges, spilled drinks in every corner. I knew I'd be there until at least 3:30 a.m. Around 2:45, I heard footsteps upstairs, the mezzanine level where we stored decorations, heavy ones, but no one had used that area in months. I looked up toward the shadowy balcony, nothing, just darkness and strands of old holiday lights hanging like cobwebs. "Is someone here?" I called out. The footsteps stopped, then something fell. A loud, sharp clatter like a metal tray hitting the floor. I ran to the back office and checked the monitors. Every camera was working except one, the mezzanine feed. The screen showed static, not black, not frozen, just static, like someone was standing close to the lens. The face behind the SHELF I should have left, but stupidly I walked upstairs with my flashlight. The mezzanine smelled like dust and damp wood. Decorations stacked everywhere, plastic trees, broken ornaments, old menus. I swept my light across the shelves, nothing. Then I turned toward the far rack at the end. Someone's eye stared back at me through the gap between boxes, just one eye, perfectly still, wide open, my breath locked in my chest. I dropped the flashlight. When it rolled across the floor, the eye vanished like it had slipped backward. I didn't wait. I ran downstairs, grabbed my bag, didn't clock out, didn't lock up, just bolted through the front door into the cool night air. My hands shook so hard I dropped my keys twice before I could start the car. I didn't go home. I drove straight to the gas station, called the morning manager, and told him everything. He didn't believe me at first until he checked the mezzanine the next day. There were fresh footprints in the dust, a pile of food wrappers behind the shelves, a blanket, and an empty energy drink can that wasn't there the week before. Someone had been living up there for weeks, maybe months. The worst part, the police checked the building. No one was found. The cameras didn't catch a face. Whoever it was had slipped out sometime during the night, probably while I was panicking downstairs. The owner changed the locks, security lights were fixed, cameras were rewired, but they never found the person or figured out how often he had come down from that mezzanine. Watching me mop, watching me sweep, watching me walk through the dim hallway, waiting for the moment I was alone enough, or distracted enough, or tired enough. I quit the next week. Now, at every job since then, I check storage rooms first. I check ceilings, vents, dust patterns on shelves, anywhere a person could hide. Because once you've seen an eye staring back at you from a place where nobody should be, you understand something most people don't. Some of the scariest people don't break into restaurants. They never left.